Dawn of Defiance, the Greek open world survival game for 1 to 4 players is out now. I've already done a bunch of guides, including a start guide for the tutorial island, but now you set foot on the mainland, this video is for you. How to get more 3-star kills, where you should explore first, tips about combat, what temples to aim for, and some quirks with some of the quests and the crafting, especially some bugs that you might run into. All that plus a brief heads up on some of the better resources that you'll need to know about. But of course, if you need more details, go and watch my resource guide, go and watch my starter guide I've already done, and make sure you're tuning in for the smaller temple videos. Let's go, Dawn of Defiance, wish I knew sooner. So I've had this confirmed by the devs of the game, but loot is set. When you find a recipe in a certain location, it will always be there. The only difference to that is multiplayer. If someone's already gone and found that chest, it unlocks the recipe for everyone on the server, but anyone else that goes to that chest, they'll simply just get some gold instead. So obviously loot every chest you come across. It's all going to benefit you whether or not you get gold coins or something more tangible. Just because you got one piece of armor or something from a chest out in the open, don't assume that all the chests in the open will give you that and waste your time scouring just for gold chests. Make sure you check the temples and what they might offer. There's one particular drop I'm going to mention though, and it's probably because it's the most powerful weapon in the game for defeating normal creatures at least and golems, and that is Poseidon's Trident. Just slightly east to the Dark Forest you'll find his temple, and you've got to go and collect 20 seashells. You do also get another spear as well, but it's the trident that you'd really like to get hold of. So them seashells can be found on the islands right next to the coast near the temple, and only there. Now the in-game clue says you may need to work up your stamina, maybe use some special stamina potions to get across, but go the easy route. Just bring plenty of wood and thatch with you and you can build a bridge all the way over. At least far enough that you'll be able to glide or swim the rest of the way. If you've been putting a lot of effort into running around the map, you've probably got athleticism actually higher than glide, so you probably have more stamina swimming. I have done an individual guide for this, but I still think it's worth pointing out right now, as the seashells, they can be pretty small, but this weapon is really powerful. You won't be able to make it though until you get gold and the Great Smelter unlocked. Gold you can find near the gateway on top of the northern mountains, probably the best spot to go and get some, and the Great Smelter you'll unlock eventually once you get a forged hammer. But yeah, just check out how much damage it's doing to this golem. It's pretty OP, but maybe not so good against some of the gorgons, as I felt like that was a bit more resistant. So a lot of the elixirs and stuff you'll be crafting require 3-star kills, and that's the only way to get rarer drops like wolf hearts and maybe rabbit pitchery glands. Basically, if it's a messy kill or low level, then you're not going to get as much chance of them items dropping. So the thing to do is always aim with headshots and try and do it within one shot. You have got a chance of getting some of the resources needed with 2-star kills, but 3-star is where it's at. Every creature shows that it's a 3-star creature before you've even fired an arrow. It's only usually when you pick up the corpse, it will change into a 1-star depending on how you killed it. Animals respawn exactly the same spot. You'll see them very much spawn in occasionally if you're rushing around, especially when you've drunken the speed elixir. And according to some helpful comments, you can go ahead and restart your game, just log out and log back in, and the animals will respawn there and there again. So mark out a location if you're looking for a particular type of animal. There's plenty of them around, but sometimes the wolves may be a bit harder to spot. Put a bed down, since nothing shows on the map at the moment, but it will show on your compass at least. And bring some copper arrows. I found like they were probably some of the better items to use, as flint didn't always do the job. Your bow skill will increase the more you use it as well. And I'm pretty sure if you got a sneak kill in with that and it hasn't detected you, you've got more chance of it being a 3-star as well. Now if you stocked up on some of them resources you need to make the elixirs later, you can just kind of cheese and do your dash attack and then ground pound to get especially the hares. That's because some of the mastery challenges from the trader require you to give him some carcasses. So if you just want to get some gold coins quick, use the dash ground pound attack on the hares, and that will get you started onto the next mastery, which I think is the does, and then eventually it will be like wolves. So you'll notice there are 2 archways when you spawned into the crossroads on the main island, and that does mean there are 2 more fast travel points. The game desperately needs something else, some way to teleport back to base at least by drinking a potion maybe. As even with these 2 teleport locations, the map is simply just too big, or at the moment a bit uninteresting to traipse across. What the game maybe doesn't tell you is that these locations also require exactly the same amount of resources you needed to open up the first portal. So you will need 400 ambrosia dust, 200 wood, 200 stone and 50 bone. So before you traipse all the way to the north and the dark forest to find the actual teleportal stoneway there, and all the way to the south desert, make sure you've got the materials with you or are confident that you'll be able to get some on the way so that it's not a wasted trek. And although the beds don't show on the actual map, they're still great for having on your compass so you know you've gone and explored somewhere or maybe returned something that you need to go and open, like the chests at night time. Dawn of Defiance is an exploration survival game, and like many, you have to work things out for yourself by finding certain resources and where they may be. But I would say DoD has a bit of an issue in terms of some of them resources being really specific to only certain places, and it can be easy to miss. Mostly I'm talking about gold. There are only literally like 1, maybe 2 locations for gold in the mountains that you'll find either to the north or the south. And considering you need so much of it for later game items, you really will need to keep coming back here over time to go and get them deposits as much as possible. For sure, if you head towards the gate icon on the map, literally next to the red border for the new area that won't be added until much later, there you'll find some gold deposits. Of course, some ores and materials you will need better tools to harvest, like the forge pickaxe, so make sure you've crafted that before heading to go and get iron or gold. And with that, I'm just going to rattle off some locations that you need to go to if it hasn't been made a bit more obvious. But do check out my resource guide for actually showing you exact locations. Iron and gold can be found in mountains. Tin is in the dark forest. You'll find silver in the desert, as well as ancient wood and amber. That's from the little stumps that you have to mine with your pickaxe. Clay and reeds can generally be found anywhere there's water or rivers. Copper is pretty much more generally spread, but a lot around the starting area near the teleportal. And don't forget, golems are a good source of clay, copper or silver depending on which one you've come across. Also, depending on your radius setting, don't build on something valuable like reeds, as especially near the teleportal there's only one spot in that little tiny lake or pond, and if you build too close to it they won't respawn. But otherwise, head to the big river like I said earlier. That's where you find clay and lots of reeds. Ambrosia crystal is easiest to find on the starter island in the 2 caves available there, as there aren't any caves on the mainland as far as I can tell, but there are lots of other open spots to find ambrosia crystals. There's a whole island filled with cypress trees where you get the hardwood and hard resin all the way to the southeast. Otherwise you'll find some in between the pretty much middle of the map and the desert. Darkwood dirt is found in the dark woods, but it is the kind of burnt looking trees. And I was going mad trying to craft some of the helmets, realising I couldn't find plumes. You need the bird feeder. Feed it blackberries and you'll get some plumes. Seashells, as mentioned before, are on the northeast island. And for another one of the temple quests you need to find pomegranates, and they're kind of on the mid-east side of the island as well. These are a great source of actual food, so make sure you get plenty to eat, as well as donate 20 of them to the temple. I have done individual guides for all of these actual temples, so go and check them out if you still need a bit more extra help. Otherwise, purple wisps found on the northern mountains, and you can find medallions just outside the dark wood in the north. That's for another quest where you need 9 of them from soldiers. No, that was a bit quick, but this isn't a resource guide, it is a general tips guide. Go and check out the full resource video for more. Couple other components that you craft and make. Eventually you'll be able to get coal and you make that in a kiln, and then with that coal you can use it on the stonecutters table to make carbon. If you don't see any of the new crafting benches, make sure you've upgraded your hammer. It's a simple thing, but some people might have missed it. You're meant to get the recipe for the simple hammer when you go through the teleportals the first time and you've looted some of the chests. Then some of the recipes you might need to craft, like bronze ingots, you have to buy from the trader. And it's the usual law of survival crafting games. If you see something new in your inventory or your crafting menu, craft it or make it and see if it pops up any new actual recipes. So you may need some copper nails, and that means having the forge, and then the forge is where you get the copper nails from. For more late game and advanced crafting stations, you will need the forged hammer, and that you can only craft at the armourer. And of course the simple hammer is crafted at a regular crafting bench. You'd be surprised how many comments I'm seeing from people, as it isn't abundantly clear, and if you missed that not paying attention that first time that you received the recipe or the blueprint for one of the hammers, then yeah, I guess it is hard to miss. Likewise, the pickaxe, you will gain the regular pickaxe or simple pickaxe recipe again when you go and activate the teleport or open up that doorway and loot all the chests. When it comes to crafting your weapons and armour, you'll get one set given to you as soon as you've placed down an armoury station. You'll get another set directly bought from the trader, and the rest of the items you will find in gold chests scattered in and around the island. All weapons are exactly the same kind of stats, so every sword is going to do the same damage, every spear is going to do the same. What makes the difference obviously is choosing what metal it's made out of. Ambrosia is the best, copper's the worst, and anything in between is going to give you more attack damage, and that goes the same for your armour sets too. And I mean the crafted weapons from the Armourer's Forge, not your simple gear or the primitive stuff. Of course that's inferior. The exception to that, as pointed out earlier, is indeed Poseidon's Trident. It technically does 0 damage, but it does do a hell of a lot of frost damage, and if again you use more advanced metals, it does even more. So the scout stuff is what you should see as soon as you open up the Armourer's Forge, and then you should be able to go ahead and buy some of the soldier gear, with the Centurion stuff being found in all the chests. They're all the same except for the chest pieces. They actually go up in terms of base level protection, whereas braziers, greaves and the helmets, they are all the same no matter what class. In actual fact as well, the leather chest piece has more protection than just the basic scout chest piece, but of course it all depends on what metals you're using. Once you start getting more of the other stuff like bronze, ingots, iron, tin and stuff, that's going to give you more protection. The scout chest piece has no bonus on it, but the soldier has a reduction 2.5% in stamina usage, and then Centurion doubles that to 5%. So yeah, always craft the chest piece first if you can, but bear in mind the scout one isn't that great. I would say there's no need to buy any from the trader. Instead, focus your coins on getting recipes like bronze, steel and anything else like crafting benches. That's where you need to go ahead and buy like the artisan bench, which you can use to customize your character's armor, make it all different colors. You'll find some of these extra colours out in the world. In fact, quite a lot of them get as a reward, as you only give them one colour to mess around with. But you can also go ahead and buy some if you've got an abundance of gold coins from the trader. I've seen a lot of comments with people having trouble actually choosing the masteries from the trader. Just make sure you're hovering over every line of item in his box. That way it will say you want to actually take the task. And likewise it goes same thing, collect the reward or redeem it. Just make sure you're hovering over with your mouse or your control pad. Admittedly, when I first went to him, I did assume they would be automatically given to me. I was wondering why it was such a grind to get gold coins, when instead you're meant to really make sure you've clicked on each one of the masteries in his menu first. And I did want to do a bit more testing on this. As said, the trader sells things like the artisan station, but I also sold a music box. Well, I ended up getting the music box as a reward for pretty much completing one of the temples and opening up one of the gold chests. So unless you really want something particular, especially when it comes to maybe some of the dyes or colorants, you might want to hold off buying them as well until you've gone and found some more in the world. As said, I have done some guides showing off where or how to gain access to a lot of the temples, but this is just another one that I figure I may have missed out on a bit earlier than I should have. Basically, Hermes Temple, you need to find the special statues and they'll give you a minor speed buff for a few seconds. Well, they actually have a clue on them, so make sure you go up to them properly, activate them and read, as that will show you where the next one is. You'll be surprised to hear that I also missed on this. I was wondering how the hell you're meant to find all these initially. And a little bit now on combat. It's very choreographed. The actual components of it are pretty much soldiers are always going to do one big lunge attack, then another time they'll do a lunge attack followed up by 2 smaller attacks. It's usually always better to go ahead and dodge rather than try blocking, as that reduces your stamina holding up the shield. And for the soldiers, just a regular dodge is sufficient. Save the actual special dash for when you're fighting against the golems, as they have a wide area of effect, or some of the gorgons with their shots that can stop you from using your powers. A well-timed run and lunge always does a bit more damage than any other regular shot, and always with a bow and arrow headshots for the win, as they will deliver critical hits against soldiers. Now I'm pretty sure there's meant to be a more sophisticated system here, or will be introduced, judging by some of the status effects appearing in small little symbols across enemies. but they're so tiny to actually work out what some of them are, and there's nowhere listed exactly what statuses there are in the game. But yeah, it does look like some enemies might or potentially will have weaknesses against either clubs, spears or swords. And you definitely notice that sometimes with certain creatures. Like, I'm convinced spears do more damage to golems, but be careful with Poseidon's trident, as it doesn't seem to do as much damage against the gorgons. So while you do definitely need some sort of healing going on, actually having more stamina is always a plus and bonus too. And look out, because everyone that can throw a spear or fire an arrow seems to absolutely have the best aim. And I'm sure you've worked out by now, but rain is not your friend. It reduces your stamina regeneration, and yeah, it pretty much sucks. So try not to engage in any kind of combat while it's raining. I have found a lot of the late game elixirs aren't really that great at the moment. A lot of the late game elixirs like the stamina one just don't seem to be doing that much compared to the regular. As a potion that's meant to give you your health, half of it back if a creature pretty much gives you a killing blow. That didn't seem to be working either. So yeah, mess around with some of them for sure. Don't go crafting like 20 of them. Just craft one, test it, see if it's going to fit your playstyle. And don't forget to boost your health, make sure you're eating the right foods. If you've got already enough wolf hearts and maybe some of the other more kind of rarer drops like the rabbit pituitary glands, well, some of the other meats that you can cook give better health and stamina. It's the same thing though when it comes to crafting ingots. It will go and cook whatever you've got the most of, which is normally just regular meat or raw meat. You have to empty your inventory out to go ahead and cook any of the other special meats that you come across. So the rabbit loin is, I think, got a good buff on it. The wolf heart, I think, gives 60 health and stam regen as opposed to only 30, but it is a shorter duration it lasts for. And as said, pomegranates are a great source of actual healing, as it's meant to have your health regen at medium level. So as always, test out every food, cook every piece of meat, but only after you've crafted whatever you need from some of them rarer drops from creatures. Little FYI on the level up system, although it says it goes up to like level 30, at the moment the max cap is level 10. So ignore anything you're seeing about an extra reward at level 15, etc. That will be implemented in the future. Also, don't forget to sleep regularly. That gives you a small buff every time you've had a good night's sleep, so make sure you put a camp bed down anywhere if you're far away from base. Do not waste your time killing wisps. The best way to get ambrosial dust is by gathering a bunch of it at night time from the purple flowers that spawn in fields, or just go ahead and use the grinder to grind down a bunch of the purple crystals. Now go and explore how you want. That's one good thing. The game doesn't really make you go one way or another, but I would still say the dark forest is probably where you want to head first, once you've gathered enough copper from the surrounding hills, as the temples in that section are much easier to complete than some of the other ones. To the north and to the east is where you find things like Poseidon's temple to get that trident, as well as the islands needed for the shells and the pomegranate, so a good place to go, I think. I'll then probably spend some time in the northern mountains as well, and then kind of hug the eastern side of the map as you make your way down to the south and then go through the desert. With absolutely the southern mountains being the toughest terrain to take on some of the enemies, as there's a lot more gorgons underneath Zeus's statue and a lot more tougher soldiers. And this one's for the cheaters out there. Maybe you just want to build in peace, maybe you really can't be arsed going and gathering resources. There is a cheat dev console command menu. Just be warned, using any of these is at your own risk, and some of them might break the game if you use the wrong command. Pressing the tilde key will bring up the console command, and then just literally type like a letter. So if you put in B, it will show you all the commands beginning with B, and probably the one most people want is builder. As long as you're not in the builder menu when you press it, it will then allow you to go ahead and use your hammer to build any of the pieces that you've already unlocked. Builder Pro, I do believe, does the same job, but it gives you all the recipes. Crafter will unlock all of the crafting options for free, so you can make as many elixirs, swords, armors and more as much as you want. And there is full-blown creative mode and stuff like that, but I've never really tested that one. If you type in release the Kraken, all one word, that unlocks even more dev commands, but these are probably the ones that will start causing some issues if you get them wrong. But there are some other useful commands, like make resources come back. You can even teleport players to you as long as you can work out the coordinates and stuff. And you get the idea. Boo-hoo to anyone that's going to criticise. It's your game. If devs have added the cheat commands and have got all these enabled, then they're leaving it to you to decide. Don't let anyone else rule your life. You do you, design the pantheon of your dreams, or maybe just get all the gear and compare some of the arms and weapons yourself. And that, I think, is pretty much it. Dawn of Defiance at its heart is a very simple game. You can really clearly see what you need to do to achieve and succeed, and a lot of it is kind of just checklist ticking. Gather 20 of this, find 5 of this, beat 3 of these. At the moment, a lot of the rewards, late game ones, just aren't that exciting, and I am feeling a little bit disgruntled. I thought we were going to be getting a lot more god powers to utilise than just the glide and dash. That doesn't seem to be the case yet. Do check out all the other individual guides I've done on the temples, like I said, and if this has all been big news to you, you still haven't made it off the starter island, watch my starter guide which covers all that. For sure I'll be checking out in the future when they get their first major update, and until then I'll see you ratbags soon. Bye bye.